What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the best in Europe, what you need to know about Chamonix. Let's get right into it. I visited Chamonix for the first time last February, and right off the bat, it really impressed me with the terrain, the views, the culture, just the overall vibe was awesome. And let me just say, Chamonix is not your typical European ski resort. In terms of terrain, it's not really about the piste. Chamonix is all about what's going on off-piste. In terms of size, it's actually quite a bit smaller than some of the big ski areas, ski resorts in Europe. It's not a Zermatt, it's not a Three Valleys, or Morzine, Avoriaz. It doesn't really have that much skiable acreage, but there's plenty to work with. There are 5 resorts. There's Les Houches, and again, I'm going to butcher these pronunciations. I apologize in advance. But so you've got Les Houches, which is honestly more of a beginner area, I believe. It's sort of near downtown. You guys know me by now if you've been following along with the videos. I tend to seek out the advanced and expert terrain and base these reviews and analysis off of my experience on those kinds of runs. So Les Houches, Flégère Brévent, which are connected to each other, we'll get into those. Grand Montets, and Les Tours. And Les Tours is another one of the bit mellower resorts, quite small. So Les Houches and Les Tours, I wouldn't bother going to if you're an experienced advanced skier. There's so much more to do at the others in Chamonix. If you're in Europe, which I was coming from London, it's quite easy to get to, just an hour or so from Geneva Airport, which for the Alps is pretty good. I went to Zermatt. We'll make a video on that. A lot further of a journey and a trickier journey. So Chamonix right off the bat ticks that box in terms of easy in, easy out. There's bus transportation once you get there from the towns to the mountains, and it's really just this valley, and you wiggle up the valley via bus in the morning and decide which mountain you want to spend your day at. Really, the takeaway for me is the off-piste skiing. It's all about off-piste at Chamonix. There's so much ungroomed terrain. More in terms of the ratio of groomed to ungroomed, I would wager that Chamonix has a higher ratio than any other resort in Europe. It's all about what's going on off-piste. Plenty of bump skiing, plenty of pow skiing should you have those conditions. We were not blessed with powder in February of 2024, but boy, I would be salivating at the thought of a bluebird powder day in Chamonix. The views are as stunning as it gets, really, I found. I haven't skied a ton in Europe. I went a few times when I was younger. Don't remember it super well, and this was the first time I had been back in years. And Chamonix blew me away, and I'm sure I'm not the first. Even consistent European skiers, I think, have said that it is one of the better sort of scenic experiences you can find. So that alone was pretty incredible, and although it was unseasonably warm and the snow wasn't great, which I'll talk about, the views sort of made up for it. You just being out there at the top of these peaks was just sensational. Europe can be pretty tricky to get around in terms of on mountain. The signage can be a bit touch and go, if you will. It's not as good as America or Canada, but I found Chamonix, because of its smaller size at these resorts, easier to get around, easier to navigate. The maps were probably about as intuitive as it gets for Europe. I didn't find it too tricky. Some might. Again, if you've only ever skied in North America, it's gonna take some adjusting because things are less tree defined. It's a lot more open, and there's a lot less piste skiing at Chamonix. So it can be tricky sort of figuring out what exact run you're skiing on. But in terms of getting from point A to point B, ending up at certain lifts, I found that pretty easy. I generally knew where I was at all times, and I was able to figure out how to get to which lift pretty easily. I don't really remember getting lost. It was pretty intuitive. So I didn't find the signage between, the literal trail signs and the trail map. I didn't find that too tricky. It wasn't bad. For European standards, found it pretty easy to navigate. In terms of the piste skiing, if you're into that, which some of you may be, that is what a lot of these European resorts are all about. The trails are pretty narrow. I can't compare it to too much because I haven't skied a lot of places in Europe, but when you look at somewhere like a Zermatt, the pisted terrain, the trails are much, much wider than Chamonix. The Chamonix pisted terrain, that sort of funnels you down to the lift, can get pretty bumped up with a lack of snow and a lot of skiers on them. They're not super wide. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to ski groomers all day. There are better options in Europe for that. So in terms of where I skied, let's start off with Grand Montets. Now, Grand Montets is the most advanced of the mountains in Chamonix. That's not me saying that. That's a pretty wide consensus. It's a little bit further up the valley, so the snow is slightly better. Again, I wasn't really able to feel that because it was really warm when we were there, and it was sort of a freeze-thaw cycle between the colder temperatures overnight and the sun baking the snow during the day. So it felt more like a sort of spring experience than anything else, and it was mid-February. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But again, we were blown away with Chamonix. But yes, Grand Montets, snow holds up better. Apparently, I think I would probably concur with that on my experience, but again, it was hard to tell because the snow was all a bit slushy, crusty, etc. But it's wide open, steep skiing. It's bowls galore. It's not huge. There's not a ton of skiable acreage. I think they might be in the process of building a new lift. But you could see just from looking at the trail map, above tree line, lots and lots and lots of bowl skiing, wide open, plenty of steeps, and like I said earlier about Chamonix in general, easy to navigate. I know they don't show a lot of off-piste terrain on the map in typical sort of European fashion. When you look at each of these faces, there's not a lot of red and black scribbles on them, but you do feel there is more to ski when you're there. So only spent one day at Grand Montets, but really enjoyed it. Wish the snow was better, but had an absolute blast and was, again, and probably won't be the last time I say this, blown away by the views, blown away by the terrain. The skiable acreage is lower, but what you get with that is an ease of access and navigation, and there's enough. There is plenty to ski between these 5 places, even the 3 places we skied. Plenty to do if you're an advanced expert skier. If you like this kind of wide open, bowl-esque terrain, it's so worth checking out. Let's move on to Flégère and Brévent. Not sure how you say it. Didn't take French in high school. Apologize. Some smaller learning areas at Flégère and Brévent, unlike Grand Montets, so a little bit better for beginners, intermediates. I found a lot of playful terrain at Flégère, and if you watch the Chamonix vlog, you will have noticed my sort of post-trip thoughts on the lift, and I think I mentioned just the playful terrain at Chamonix, at all of these resorts. There's so many little chutes and steep shots and cliffs that are right off the lift. You don't have to do some crazy hiking. You can. I saw people skinning up and with their touring gear, and you do feel that at Chamonix. You know, it was the birthplace of Black Crowes skis, which are all about that sort of stuff. I didn't do it. I'm kind of fair weather when it comes to backcountry skiing. I don't have a ton of experience, and if I'm putting in the effort, I like to have good snow. But if there's a place in Europe to do that kind of thing, it is Chamonix. The Vallée Blanche, of course, wasn't able to do it because the snow was kind of crap, but would love to go back and do it. So it's really the mecca of European off-piste and backcountry skiing. And you just feel that right away with the terrain that's right off the lift, with the steep skiing, with the views of people hiking up these chutes. It's awesome. It's just absolutely fantastic. And like I said, I found a lot of playful terrain inbounds. That was just a blast. So there is a tram that connects Flégère and Brévent. So we spent 2 days sort of between those two, which was awesome because you get so much more terrain because of the tram, and it's a quick ride across a valley. It's pretty cool. They love a tram over there in Europe, which is fun. Gorgeous views again, and again, easy to lap, I found. Not necessarily short runs, but just very lappable, if that makes sense. You get off the lift, you can ski a piste until you want to drop in. You drop in, ski down, you take the lift up again, and the vertical is pretty decent. So just so much fun, and a very intuitive lift system I found at Flégère and Brévent. Easy to navigate, like I've been saying. Easy to get around, easy to lap, great terrain. Ticks a lot of boxes, guys. I mean, I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but it was a great time. I want to touch on the aerial tram at Brévent that takes you to the top. It's a must if you go. You gotta hop on the tram. It's an easy ride up. It's a gorgeous ride up, and the views at the top are the best we experienced during that trip. It was great, and the terrain off there was awesome. I wish it wasn't so crusty and slushy because it would have been a freaking blast on, with some fresh snow. Man, oh man, that would have been. It's just my type of skiing. You get the bluebird pow day up there, steep and deep, open, just bomb down, make some turns, take it. It's just, I'm just dreaming of it. So more to ski between Flégère and Brévent than there is slightly further up the valley at Montets, but the snow is slightly worse. Again, I think it's slim pickings. I would do both. I wouldn't have changed sort of the trip itinerary if I went again. I had a great time at both. Playful terrain at both. Steeps and chutes and bowls at both. So that's where you want to spend your time if you're at Chamonix. Especially if you've never been there before. Especially if you are a expert, if you are experienced, advanced. Wouldn't bother with the other two resorts. I would love to go back there with on a guy's trip and just rip Flégère, Brévent, and Grand Montets. That's really all you need. They have it all. You could spend tons of time there and never ski the same thing twice, despite the the look of the trail map and the smaller skiable footprint that is there compared to some of the big resorts. But I don't know. I don't think size is everything. It's just my opinion. I think what you get with Chamonix is just awesome, and I don't think it needs much more. It's just great. I have to touch on the town, which I found super lively, so much fun. We were only there for a long weekend, but boy, it was a really good time. Place was hopping. The Aprés life is certainly in full force in the town of Chamonix. It's packed with folks. It's actually tougher than I thought to pick out a Frenchman. There's a lot of Brits, given its ease of access. So that was sort of an interesting observation. But it's fun. And the mountains are pretty quiet, actually. It's more the town where the music is bumping and the Aprés scene really is. The mountains themselves, you can sort of do that, but we didn't really see it. The food is good. You know, there are places to, you know, stop at and eat and drink on mountain, but that's not really where you get the sort of Aprés scene that people will be looking for. Just to conclude, talk a little bit more about the snow. And, you know, I'm sure some of you are wondering, is it worth it going all the way over there? Should I just go out west? I mean, listen, there is better quality snow. There are often higher quantities of snow in the western United States and Canada. That's a fact. I won't argue that. Maybe a little bit more difficult to get to. You're going to another continent, maybe a little more expensive. But I would say in terms of travel time, it's not even that much different, really. I mean, sure, Denver and Salt Lake are going to be a little bit quicker, but your time in the car is pretty low. Once you're there, you're there. It doesn't take a while to get there from the airport. You just got to fly into Geneva. So it was a bucket list for me. I'm so glad I did it. I would recommend it if you're a serious skier, if you want to ski in Europe, if you have skied in Europe before, if you haven't, you got to do it. It was pretty great. And it's on the Icon Pass. So that's really why we went, because you might as well use that, right? So it's included, which is just incredible. So if you're an off-piste guy, there's no better place in Europe. There just isn't. That's my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree. I have to say, I think if you're about this kind of terrain that I've been speaking of, Chamonix is your place. I mean, if you're an Alta snowbird guy like myself, a Jackson Hole, a Big Sky, it's the European equivalent, right? It has some of that traverse, pick your way down. I like to say create your own destiny. Chamonix has that. It's wide open skiing in a lot of spots. Sure, it's lacking on tree skiing like pretty much most of Europe, just of the nature of the Alps. But if you like this kind of steep skiing, and you want some views, you want some good food, you want a good vibe, there's not many better places, guys. I'm telling you, I was buzzing in Chamonix. I just wish the snow was a little bit better. But like I said, I found the terrain quite incredible. It's unlike anything else in Europe. It's probably unlike anything else I've ever skied, although I think there are some similarities to some stuff I have encountered in the US. But it really just ticks a lot of boxes. I think I'll end it there. Let me know if you have any thoughts in the comments. Have you been? Am I missing something? Fill in the people who haven't been in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any more questions. I would be happy to answer some. We're going to be putting out more of these what you need to know videos, because if you're like me, you like to sort of take some time to deliberate on where to plan your next ski trip. Maybe you've got the Icon and you don't know whether to go out west or Pacific Northwest or Canada. I can talk about the places I've skied, and I can give you my unbiased opinion, and you can take it from there. But that'll do it. Keep an eye out on the channel for more of these videos. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting there. Slowly but surely we'll get there with subscribers. So keep it up, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.